Hello guys, welcome to this Gulp crash course inside VS Code, and I will actually show you what is Gulp, why we use it inside our development. Gulp is basically, guys, you may say it's a special library inside the programming world where you want to basically, if you want to minify your JavaScript or compile the SASS into CSS, or if you want to compress your code, all these repetitive tasks that you want to perform inside your development journey can be handled by a library called as Gulp. So there are various alternatives also. There Grunt as well, but I will be talking about Gulp in this tutorial. So you will see this is actually a project that I have right here. If you see, we have this index.html file which is present inside dist folder, and now if I run this Gulp script, which is run by simply this command npx gulp. This is actually the command right here which I'm writing right here. So as I execute this command, guys, you will see my CSS and the JavaScript will be minified, concatenated, and it will be created automatically. You can see that this is the style.min.css. You can see the CSS is successfully, white space is removed, and it is successfully minified, and it has been converted from SASS. And this is actually the JavaScript also being minified, compressed, and you can see it is appearing on a single line. This improves the performance of your app, so that's why we minify the code when we apply for production. So inside this index.html we are applying this style.min.css, so style scripts.min.js. So if I try to open this file in the browser, it will look something like this. So the heading, which is appearing in green color. So if I make any sort of changes, so now this is the biggest reason why we use Gulp. You can see that as I make changes, it will hot reload. This is my SASS file, and it is actually being compiled to CSS by Gulp. This is if I make any sort of change right here. If I want to change this color from green to, let's suppose, I pick a different color. So if I change this to this color, so you will basically see again this script will run automatically. So when we make changes, automatically this script will run, and now you can see that color of the text. If you see, the color of the text is successfully changed, and you can make any changes. You can see, you can change, let's suppose, if you want to add a style font size, if I make it larger, 45 pixel, so again it will run automatically, hot reload, and now my text size have been increased. So this is actually a SASS file. If you see, this is not a CSS file, this is actually a SASS file which has converted to CSS. You can see that automatically. So this is actually a setup that you need to do, guys. In this tutorial I will show you the step-by-step setup, how to set up Gulp inside VS Code and how to use it inside your JavaScript project, and I will also show you how to integrate this inside Express app as well in Node.js. If you are developing a Node.js Express backend API, if you want to use it, how you can use it. This is actually, we are using multiple SASS files. So this is, you can see button SASS. This is actually a button color. If I change this color, let's suppose, to any color, so again this will run. You can see that. And now if I open my style.css, you will see the button color is whichever color I put right here, it is there. And if I show you the styles.min.css, this is actually the button color. You can see button style is also there. So we have multiple SASS files, if you see, in different folders, and we are actually concatenating both these SASS files into a single styles.min.css file. So this is actually the features of Gulp. It can be used to compress the size of SASS files. It can be compiled SASS to CSS, JavaScript, minify it. You can even reduce the size of your images as well. So if you are using images, so if you know, Gulp has various plugins which is actually allows you to do these tasks. So in Gulp, we basically assign some task. So we have a specialized Gulp file. If you see, inside our root project, we have this gulp file.js. Inside this file, we assign different tasks related to, this is actually the task which will actually clean the CSS. This is a task which is assigned to clean the JavaScript. This task will compile the SASS to CSS, and this will minify the CSS. This will minify the JavaScript. This will actually watch for any changes that you make inside your application. This Gulp script will once again run these tasks. So by default, this task will, when we run this command, if you simply run this command npx gulp, this is when you run this command, uh, this this line executes line number 60. So by default this will run, and it will run all these tasks that we have defined right here, if you see. So it will actually define all these tasks. The ordering is important, so whichever task is actually mentioned first will be executed first, and then we will execute the rest of the task. So at last, if you see, it is watching for the changes. If you make any sort of change, it will re-execute. So coming back to the JavaScript, you will see actually we have this simple console log statements, hi world, second statement. And if you see our minified JavaScript, you can see everything is there on a single line. It is compressed. And if I show you the inspect element, you will basically see all these statements are appearing in the browser. Let's suppose if I make any sort of change, I add a alert statement right here. So you will basically see it will hot reload. You will see that. So now let's get started, guys, how to implement or configure Gulp inside the project. So I will actually close this and start from scratch. So I will, here in my projects directory, I will simply make a new directory. I will call this as Gulp project 2 and open it inside VS Code. So you will basically see we are actually starting it from scratch. Let me just navigate to the folder. So you can see we are starting it from scratch. Nothing is present. So first of all, we do need to define the package.json file by npm init-y. This will create the package.json file. Then we need to install the gulp dependency and as a dev dependency. So just add this flag npm I gulp gulp dash dash save dash dev. So simply execute this command and it will install this dependency as a dev dependency. And then we do need to install some plugins which actually gulp third-party plugins, which allows you to carry out these functionalities of compiling SASS to CSS or minifying the code or concatenating different files into a single file. So for that, we have different plugins out there, and you can even go to the Gulp official documentation, and there you will see the plugin section. You can actually explore multiple plugins. So you can see almost 4,325 plugins are there. So one such plugin is Gulp SASS, which actually compiles your SASS to CSS. So you can see 348,000 weekly downloads. So we will install this. So npm I gulp SASS, and one such plugin is for concatenating gulp concat. And also in the same way, we do have a plugin to actually clean the white space, gulp-clean. And also we have to, if you want to compress or minify your files, we have gulp uglify, uglifi. This is basically a plugin which will minify all your files. This will be for cleaning the white space which is present in the files. This is for concatenating or joining or merging multiple files. This is for compiling the SASS to CSS. So these are 4 different plugins out there. So simply, sorry, we need to just add dash dash sev. So it will be installed as a dev dependency. So these are different plugins out there. So once installed, it will be mentioned inside. So we are using the latest version of Gulp, which is 5.0.0. And my Node.js version is also the latest one. If I just show you, so my Node.js version is 20.9.0. So you can just cross check your Node version and Gulp version as well. So at the time of recording this video, we are using the latest version. So now let's get started. For the very first thing we need to define is the gulp file. So whenever you are working with Gulp, you need to define this file, Gulp file.js. So the icon will also change in VS Code. If you see, it will recognize that it's a Gulp file. And here you will actually define the configuration code for your Gulp task. So right in this file, first of all, we do need to require the Gulp package right at the very top. And then we also need to import the SASS, which is a Gulp plugin for actually compiling the SASS into CSS. And here also, guys, one other dependency I forgot to tell you, we do need to require the SASS package, SASS. So simply install this package as well, npm i-save dev SASS library. So this is required if you want to compile your SASS into CSS. So that's all. We do need to require it as well right here. So just write here require SASS. So after this, we also need to import the built-in path module as well of Node.js. And let me just import all these dependencies. Clean CSS. So I think we haven't installed this. So Gulp clean CSS is actually required to actually clear the white space which is present inside the CSS file. So Gulp clean CSS. This is actually the plugin Gulp clean CSS. So also install this also. So once installed, we can import this Gulp clean CSS. And also we need to import the Uglify plugin of Gulp Uglify. And then we also need to import the concat plugin, which is used to concatenate multiple files, Gulp concat. And then we also need to import the Gulp clean plugin. So this is required for all other files such as JavaScript if you want to clear the white space. This is just a configuration code, guys. So once I written this code, I will show you how it works and how. So just need to write as I'm writing. So now we need to actually configure the paths of the files. So before configuring this, you need to create a dist folder. So this dist folder, we will actually be having our production files. So here I will define my index.html. So here you can write your HTML code, whatever you need to basically, let me just say Gulp basic example. So here what I will do, I will have this link tag which will be having redirect. We will be including the style.min.css which will be compiled by Gulp. Similarly, we will have the script tag and it will be coming from the script.min.js. So for those, we need to create the folders. Just create a CSS folder and the JavaScript folder. So these folder will be empty by default. So Gulp will actually run the task, and in all these minified CSS and minified JavaScript will be automatically be compiled and stored inside these folders, and then we will run the file. So here in the HTML, we can actually define a heading, hello world, and that's all. And then we will simply have a button. We will simply say, I will say click me. This is all that is there in the HTML. Very simple HTML document. You can open it. So now nothing works because we haven't configured the Gulp right now. We have just defined our production files, and here we need to define the source directory, guys, where you will be actually be storing your SASS files and the JavaScript file we will be writing. So just create a folder of SASS. We'll just create, suppose, just first of all create a file, just random file. Just create this folder for SASS and then the second folder for JavaScript. Now I can delete that file. So here in the JavaScript, we will simply be saying script.js, and in the SASS, we will be defining style.sass. So here we can actually be define our simple JavaScript, whatever you want to do. This JavaScript will be compiled by Gulp, So here we can have some bunch of alert statements. Let me bind a event handler to the button. So you can see we have defined an ID here. Let me just see if we are defined. So just give it an ID here to the button. That's all. So in the JavaScript, we are targeting the button by its ID and actually defining an alert when we click the button. That's all. This is our JavaScript. Coming back to the SASS file. So in the SASS file, we can basically define some SASS. So we can actually have a variable right here of primary color, and we can define this variable to be, so variables are defined by not this symbol, this symbol. We can define a actually a color right here, and then in the body we can use this color, background color. That's all. And we can define font size to be 45 pixel. And here we can actually be targeting the heading and just align this heading in the center position. That's all. For now, these are the styles which we have defined in the SASS file. If you see, you can even have a complex SASS file, depends upon you. This is, I'm just an example that I'm showing you. This is the SASS file. This is now the JavaScript file. Now coming back to the Gulp file, here we need to define all the paths for the gulp to actually run. So here we will define this array. It will actually contains 4 properties. This will not be an array, this will be an object. The first property will be in this object will be the SASS file. So where is it is located? So it is located in the source directory ./source, and it is present in the SASS directory. And here this is actually a wildcard, guys. So this simply means that all the files which are present in subdirectories, so this folder can have, let me call this, I call this as SASS. So it can have as many subdirectories as possible. So this wildcard is basically saying that it can have subdirectories as well. So star, and then we only need to target the files which actually end with SAS files. That's all. This is put a comma and then the actual location where it needs to compile. So we need to actually compile it to this dist folder and the CSS. That's all. The file name will automatically be taken care of. So let's suppose if the input file is style.sas, then automatically Gulp will actually output style.min.css. So we don't need to write the output file name in the destination. It will automatically taken care of. Similarly, for the JavaScript, we will actually be saying it is located in the source directory in the JavaScript folder, and we are use the same pattern right here. And the destination where you need to save it, we need to save it in the dist folder in the JavaScript folder. That's all. Again, we are not providing the file name. It will automatically taken care by Gulp. That's all for the paths. Now we need to define some task. So basically task in Gulp is generally what to do. So they are simply simple lines of code which actually defines what to do. So we can define a task in Gulp by using the task method, and here we need to give the name of the task. You can define any name of your choice. So the first task I will define is to clean the CSS, clean the white space which is present in the CSS. So this actually will use the method gulp.source. So what here we need to provide the location of the file. So it is located in the path.join. Here we're using the object here, paths.css, like this. So we are actually taking this object. We have basically saying that where you need to save this file. We need to save this file in this location. So we are actually targeting this. and then here we need to provide the all the files which are ending with CSS. So clean CSS actually means, guys, we are actually deleting the previous file so that we can compile the new ones. So that's meant by clean, not the white space. We are actually deleting the files. Then we actually need to pass an object as the second parameter. This object takes two properties, which is allow empty to be true and read to be false. We are not reading the file, we are simply deleting it. So that's why we need to put false right here. And then we have a pipe function inside Gulp. We can use this pipe function, and here we can use the plugin which is clean. So this will actually delete the previous file. We define this, we are coming it using gulp.clean plugin. We are actually deleting that file. So clean.css. So this we can do this for the same thing for the JavaScript as well. So what I can do, we can simply repeat this for the JavaScript. So here we can define the task clean.js, and this will be paths.js. This will be for the JS. That's all. The logic will remain the same, but here now we are doing it a new task for the JavaScript for deleting the previous JavaScript files. That's why. And now the task here will be for compiling SASS to CSS. Sorry, CSS. So now we will simply say gulp.task, and you can simply say SASS, and we can define a callback function. So this task will actually compile the SASS to CSS, and right here we'll be providing the path of the file. So it is present inside paths.sass file. So inside this we need to use the pipe function, as I already told you. Let me show you step by step. Dot pipe. So here you're using a SASS plugin, and it actually contains some events. So if any sort of error take place, we can simply define it like this: log it, log error. So if any error take place, we can define it in the console. If no error take place, then we need to save this file at the destination. So gulp.destination, this is the actual function which saves the file at that particular location. So we have the location pass.css. That's all. This is really simple, guys. We provide the input location, output location, and if any sort of error take place, we log the error in the console. Now we can actually run this task by simply having the default task, gulp task. We can define it default task like this. So this runs basically a series of tasks. We can define multiple tasks as well, but for now we will only be running the SASS task as only. So what it will do, guys, it will actually compile this SASS code that is written inside style.sass, and it will create a new directory, a new file in the CSS folder. Just we need to now execute this command npx gulp. So if you execute this command, you will see on the left hand side it will compile the SASS into CSS, and now you can see that. So it is starting the default task that we defined, and then it is running this task SASS, and it takes really small time. And now you can see the SASS has been converted to CSS. All the styles that we defined, and if you check your file, you will see. Okay, let me just move it in the index. Let me. Okay, CSS style dot CSS. Sorry, style.css. Sorry, this creates style.css, not style.min.css. If you see that now the styles have been successfully applied, so we can actually make any change in our SASS file. Let me choose a different color. You will see for this it will not automatically reload. We need to actually run it again. So again it will change, you will see the color will change to green. So this is not very good. Every time we make a change we need to execute this command. So for that we have a task that we can define in our gulp file. So this task actually watches for the changes that you make, similar to any node mon that you have saved. So we can actually assign a task of watching the changes like this, and then we have this callback function which actually watches for any changes that the user makes to the any file. So right here you can simply say watch for changes which are happening in the SASS file, and then run this task which is SASS. That's all. So what this code does, guys, you will see we have defined a watch task, and it is watches for everything which is happening in this SASS file, and then we need to run this task once again. So if you now execute this you need to now execute only once. So you can see finished default. Okay, we now need to do just add this. So whenever you define a new task, we need to add this in the default task. We are adding it in the default task. So if you now run, so if you now see, now I can't actually execute any other command, so it is watching for the changes. So now if I make any sort of changes, now the color is green. If I try to actually change this color to, so you can see that automatically it changes. Whenever we make changes, it automatically runs this SASS tags. You will see that. So this is really important thing, guys. We don't need to do repetitive tasks again and again. That's why we use gulp in the background. So you can actually use this command and run it in the background while you are developing your projects locally. This is really useful dependency. It is not used for production, but it is only used for local environment. When you are developing your project, it makes the things really easy. And now I will show you how you can do this thing for the JavaScript as well. So we can, if you see the style.css that we got, it actually contains white space. We also need to minify this as well. We only need to have little space. We all So if you want to minify this, there is a plugin that we can use. So we defined this task right here. I think, yeah, for minifying the thing, we do need to define a task for this. So we can actually define a task for minifying the spaces, white space, minify CSS. So inside this function, what this does, it actually returns a function gulp source, and here we need to define the path.join path.css. So here we are actually targeting the style.css file, which is actually compiled from SASS. Now we need to actually remove the white space. So for removing the white space, we can actually use the pipe operator, and here we can actually use the plugin clean CSS that we imported. So it will clean the white space which is there in the output file, and we need to create it in a new file. So we need to use the concat plugin as well, and here we will be defining a new file which will be created in the same folder by the name of styles.min.css. It will be created in the same folder, and then we need to simply say gulp.destination paths.css. That's all. So now this task, guys, it is four lines of code. In the first line, we are providing the input file, which is style.css, which gets compiled from SASS. And then we actually remove the white space by using this plugin clean CSS, and then we concatenate everything in a single file called as styles.min.css, this file, and then we are simply saving it. So if you now need to actually assign this, we can, after compiling it, we can simply assign the task minify CSS like this. So if you now run this once again, so if you see now, your style.css will have spaces, but it has now created a new file which is styles.min.css, and it doesn't have spaces. It is all happening in the single line. All the white space have been removed and minified, and this also saves a lot of time and efficiency, because on production level applications you need to have minification of your code. So if you now check, the code will remain constant, but if you check the view page source, this is your style dot. Okay, we are not loading the styles.min.css. We just need to change it. We need to load the styles.min.css file. So if you make this change, the code will remain the same, but now if you check view page source, so you can see that, so all your code is actually minified. So you can see that, and we can also make any change right here. If I change this to, let's suppose, so again it will run automatically, and I think this is not running. Okay, yeah, this one, whenever the file is changed, here also you need to add the task as well. So whenever the file is changed, we need to compile it, and then we need to also minify it as well. So minify CSS. So just add this task once again right here as well. So if you now refresh, and if I try to change this color, let me run this once again. If you make a lot of changes, you need to restart your gulp command. So just make sure. Now if I change this, let's suppose this background color to, now it automatically changes. So you can see that, guys, we can even change the color of the text, let's suppose to white. So you can see that. So now we will actually be doing the same thing for the JavaScript as well. You can see the JavaScript is not executing because we haven't done that. So in the gulp file, we need to define the JavaScript as well now. For the JavaScript, we just need to minify it. So we will define the same task for the JavaScript as well, which is minify JS. So here we can actually define the same things, gulp.source, paths.js source, and then for actually minifying the JavaScript, we do have a plugin which we installed it earlier, which is called as ugly file. Ugly file will actually compress or minify the JavaScript code, and then we need to simply use the concat filter or plugin to actually store all this in a single file, scripts.min.js, and then we also need to save this location. So gulp.destination paths.js destination. That's all. The spelling of minify is minify, sorry, minify.js. So we have defined this everything. Now we do need to add this to the right here in the watch filter, and also in the default filter as well. Minify.js, and here also minify.js. So if you refresh your application, for this you need to restart this. If you see in the JS folder, this script is created, scripts.min.js, and it is actually all the code in the JavaScript has been compressed and it is appearing on a single line. You will see that. So in the index.html, we are actually loading this, sorry, this needs to be scripts. Just make sure. And now you can see your alert statement is all working properly. If I click the button, click me, you will see hello world. So all the code, guys, you will see it is working. The console log statements is also working. So you can make any change now in the JavaScript as well. Let's suppose you don't need to open the dist folder. Simply open the development folder in the source folder. You can modify the SASS, you can modify the JavaScript, and Gulp will automatically run in the background, and it will make sure that your all the changes have been taken place. So you can see that automatically hot reload functionality is there. Open your JavaScript if you want to remove this alert statement, and let's suppose if I want to change the test, this is this is John from. So now if you just need to refresh it. Okay, if you see the previous JavaScript is, if I change the JavaScript, it is not working. This is because, guys, we haven't added the clean JS and the clean CSS. If you see, we are in the starting of the video, we actually added these two tasks, which is clean CSS and the clean JavaScript. So this is actually used if you want to clean JavaScript. If you want to make changes, if you in the JavaScript, it should reflect. That's why we also need to, at the very top, we can assign this clean CSS and clean JavaScript. So this will automatically be running, because if you make any sort of changes in CSS and JavaScript, it will automatically delete the previous files, and then it will create new files with the newly changes that you have made. Just add this, and similarly add this as well right here as well. Whenever you make changes, these two tasks will be running. First of all, it will delete the previous files and just create new ones. So for that, you need to refresh your gulp, npx gulp. So it is saying that clean.js path argument must be of type string. Okay, I think, let me see, clean path dot. Okay, this needs to be paths.js destination. Sorry, just make sure. And this will be star min dot. So we are targeting the minified file, so we need to delete the minified file. So that's why all the files starting from .min.js, and I think we do need to do it for the CSS as well. Yeah, I think for the CSS, okay, for the CSS it's correct, but for the JavaScript it was creating problem. So run the gulp file, and now if you see, you will see this alert statement, this is John. And now if I show you, if I make changes in the JavaScript as well, just don't open the dist folder, just if I make changes, so it will now execute. I think uh, I made some typo mistake right here. If I change the JavaScript right here, and also for the SASS, if I show you, basically, if I make another file, let's suppose a button file. In SASS, you can have multiple files as well. If you know, we can actually have various styles for our different components. So if we have a button component right here, we can actually define a button color, let's suppose to be FFF, and then we can actually have a button selector. We can change the background color of the button to be like this. And now we can actually import this in the base CSS file. So we can use a statement called as import, sorry, add the rate symbol for the import. We need to import the button style. So if you do this now, it will also compile this as well. So once you do this, if you see the dist folder, now it in the CSS folder, it has actually created a button folder automatically, and inside the button folder we have the button.css. So this is actually the styles for the button. But now in the minified file, if you see, you get actually concatenate each and everything in a single file. So if you see the output file, the button color, so we actually targeted the button color, which is actually this color, which is, I think it's a white color. So I need to change this color. Let's suppose button color to the same color, let's suppose. So as I make this change, you will see in the styles.mints or CSS, it will, the button color is changed. So now you can see that we can have different components. Gulp will automatically do this for us. You can have multiple components in SASS as well, and similarly in the JavaScript as well. You can actually add some more JavaScript, and then it will compile it in a single file, single JavaScript file, script.min. This is actual crash course, guys, about Gulp. You can actually explore more about Gulp by visiting their website and documentation. It's a very good tool, and it has a lot of plugins available for carrying out these small little tasks. And if you want to integrate this inside a Express application as well, you can just have a index.js file. Just create the basic Express server. If you do need to integrate that, just create a new Express app. Start this app on port 5000, and just you need to load the file. Server is listening on port 5000. And then we can make this directory, static directory, as static. That's all. So we just need to install the Express package. So now just open a new terminal. So just install npm express. So it will install the Express package. So you can now run the application nodemon index.js. So it will start this application on port number 5000. You can directly open it, localhost 5000. So the same thing will also happen in the Node.js Express app as well. You can see that. So again, if you make any sort of changes inside your SASS, if you change the background color, automatically it will run. You'll see that in both the scenarios, if you're running it in a browser or in a Express environment in a backend, both the environments will work with Gulp. So this is the actual crash course, guys, of Gulp, how to actually do these things. So thank you very much, guys, for watching this video, and I will be seeing you in the next. Please hit that like button, subscribe the channel as well.